Have you ever believed a lie so convincing that truth sounded like betrayal? That's what happened the day a respected voice went viral spreading claims against Ibrahim Traoré. The president of Burkina Faso, trusted by millions, suddenly under fire from a single broadcast. The voice belonged to Jérôme Kadima, a newscaster with a charismatic face and a large online following. He aired a report suggesting hidden abuses under Traoré's leadership. No evidence. Just words. But in a country struggling for hope, words have power. Public trust trembled. Was it true? Did Traoré silence dissenters, as Jérôme claimed? Social media lit up with arguments. Some demanded answers, others questioned Jérôme's motives. One post read, "Why destroy a man's name for views?" Jérôme had always admired power. He once told a friend, "You don't need to run for office to rule a nation, just control the narrative." That night, his words played on every screen in Ouagadougou. Some cheered. Others whispered betrayal. Ibrahim Traoré watched the broadcast in silence. He didn't flinch. Instead, he asked his closest advisor, who paid him. Not why, but who. Because Traoré knew this wasn't journalism. This was warfare in disguise. Back at the newsroom, Jérôme was glowing. Interview requests flooded in. Foreign outlets praised his courage. But behind the scenes, colleagues noticed a shift. Jérôme no longer answered questions. He just smiled and said, "You'll see." Traoré launched an internal inquiry. Not public, not loud. He wasn't chasing headlines. He was chasing truth. And the truth, he believed, lay not in Jérôme's studio, but in his bank statements. Investigators quietly traced new wire transfers to Jérôme's account. The deposits were large, sudden, and routed through 3 shell companies. All linked to a businessman exiled from Burkina Faso 5 years ago, Adama Barrow. Adama Barrow, once a political ally, now a bitter rival. He lost everything under Traoré's reforms. Rumors say he promised revenge. But instead of bullets, he chose influence. And Jérôme became his mouthpiece. The plot thickened when Jérôme's producer, Aminata, resigned without warning. She told a friend, "I didn't sign up to ruin a man's legacy." Days later, she was gone, vanished, leaving only silence behind. Traoré's team invited Jérôme for a private conversation. Not an arrest. Not an accusation. Just a question, "Where did your story come from?" Jérôme refused. "I have my sources," he said. But trust requires more than deflection. Outside the gates, the country was dividing. Protesters clashed. Some held signs demanding the president step down. Others waved Traoré's image, crying, "Justice for the truth." And Jérôme? He watched from a penthouse suite, sipping coffee. Jérôme's wife, Claire, confronted him. "Did you lie, Jérôme?" she asked. He smiled, kissed her forehead, and said, "You wanted a house in Paris, didn't you?" That night, she left him. She wanted comfort, not corruption. Inside the investigation room, Traoré's team discovered something more damning than money. Emails. Dozens of drafts between Jérôme and Adama, plotting narratives, discussing which emotions to trigger: fear, anger, betrayal. Still, Jérôme denied everything publicly. On air, he declared, "This is a witch hunt. They're silencing the press." But behind closed doors, even his lawyer begged, "Tell the truth, Jérôme, before it's too late." Then came the twist. Aminata resurfaced in Senegal. In a video, she detailed everything: scripts they were told to write, footage manipulated, and the moment she realized they weren't reporting the news. They were staging it. The nation gasped. The video went viral. Overnight, the narrative flipped. Jérôme's fame turned into infamy. Viewers who once praised his bravery now asked, "How could you betray us like this?" Traoré remained silent. No press conferences. No victory speeches. Just a statement. The truth speaks for itself. And with that, a quiet dignity that echoed louder than any accusation. Jerome fled the country. Rumors said Morocco. Some said Dubai. But the internet never forgets. Everywhere he went, his name was followed by one word: traitor. Claire filed for divorce. She told the court, "I married a man, not a masquerade." Their son, just 9, asked, "Did daddy lie for money?" No answer could undo that damage. Adama Barrow released a statement denying involvement. But financial records told a different story. He called it support for free speech. But investigators called it manipulation. International outlets began retracting their stories. Editors apologized. But the harm had been done. Traoré's leadership, though vindicated, had been stained. The people of Burkina Faso were left with a deeper wound. Trust, once broken, doesn't heal quickly. And Jerome's story became a cautionary tale. 1 year later, a journalist visited Traoré. She asked, "What hurt the most?" He replied, "Not the lies, but how quickly people believed them." Meanwhile, Aminata returned home. She was offered her job back. She refused. Instead, she opened a school for young reporters, teaching them the cost of truth and the price of silence. Claire remarried. She kept her son away from the spotlight. But sometimes, he'd ask, "Was my dad a bad man?" And she'd say, "He made bad choices." Jerome tried to launch a podcast. Few listened. His voice, once commanding, now echoed hollow. Betrayal makes people listen. But it doesn't make them stay. In a dark apartment, Jerome recorded his final episode. "If you're listening," he said, "learn from me. When the truth doesn't serve your ego, don't replace it. Endure it." That episode never aired. He deleted it seconds later. Some say it was the most honest thing he ever said. Traoré continued his presidency. He made reforms not just in policy, but in media laws. Greater transparency. More protections for journalists. But also, more accountability. The country learned. Painfully. That freedom of speech isn't freedom from consequence. And lies, no matter how viral, have victims. Adama was never extradited. He lives comfortably in exile. But his legacy? Tied forever to a scandal that almost broke a nation. Jerome's name disappeared from newsrooms. His awards were returned. His presence erased from press halls. A reminder of what not to become. Aminata received an award for courage in journalism. She dedicated it to the truth we almost lost. And the people? They still talk. Still argue. Still remember. Because when the news lies, reality fractures. And trust dies slowly. Children now study the case in schools. The Kadima affair, they call it. A lesson in ethics, in greed, in human weakness. Jerome once said, "History is written by the loudest voice." But history proved him wrong. It's written by those who endure. Traoré never sued Jerome. "Let him live with the truth," he said. That's punishment enough. Today, Jerome walks the streets of Lisbon. No cameras. No crowds. Just silence. He sees headlines and flinches. He hears radios and cringes. Every now and then, a stranger recognizes him. They don't ask for pictures. They ask, "Why did you do it?" And he never answers. Regret isn't loud. It's quiet. It comes at 3 a.m., when even fame has left. When you replay your betrayal over and over. Would Jerome do it again? Maybe. Maybe not. But in his eyes, the hunger never left. Not for truth, but for attention. And so, the country moved on. But never forgot. Because the voice that once misled them became the echo that reminded them, truth matters. In the end, Jerome wasn't destroyed by the government. He was undone by his own ambition. Aminata's students often ask, how do you know what's real? She says, start with why they're telling you, not just what they're saying. Claire wrote a memoir, The Man Behind the Mic. It became a bestseller. But not for the reasons Jerome would have wanted. Ibrahim Traoré, years later, said, I survived a bullet I never saw. A lie, crafted like a blade. The newsroom where Jerome worked. It shut down. No advertisers. No trust. No truth. So ask yourself this, if your voice could change the world, would you use it to build or to burn? Because in the end, the loudest sound isn't applause. It's silence. The silence of a nation betrayed, then healed. And the silence of a man who lost everything just to be heard.